Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tracy Show. I'm joined by my guest, Constance. Constance is making history because she's my first female guest. She's my first person of color to be on this show. So you have set a trail that I hope continues.
Wow, thank you so much for that. Yeah, definitely making history with this campaign. Definitely been one of the only few handful of black candidates ever to run for the governor of Tennessee. And now actually standing as the final last black candidate on the ballot for governor of Tennessee. And if I win, as we know around the country right now, there are 5 chances for black women to make history right now as we speak by taking the governor roles in various states around the United States of America. America has never had a female black woman governor in the history of this country. So yes, this is a phenomenal time to making history, and I am honored to make the Tracy Carson Media Show history today by being the first black woman and the first woman, person of color, etc., on the show. So thank you for that honor.
Oh, thank you very much. And before we get started, I got a ton of bills to pay here, so I'm going to make it quick. Anna, thank you for reminding everybody. Like this video. Share this video. We had our first two videos, we had a combined share of 108. That's like the all-time record for anything I've ever put out. So please continue to share this video. Um, Subscribe to the page. There's a red button somewhere. If you're not a subscriber to the page, please subscribe. Of course, like this page, subscribe to this page, like us on the Patreon. We're going to get to all of our events here in just a moment. We have the Beat the Duopoly forum coming up Saturday the 24th. Registration is still free and it's still open. You can join us by registering at tracymediallc.com/r-events. Also, this is new for us. I am doing monthly Zoom calls. So if you want to be in the Zoom call here, just it'll be the first one will be October 15th at 11 a.m. and that's of course Eastern Standard Time. You can register again at tracymedia.com backslash I'm sorry, tracymediallc.com /r-events. This is also another new event. On December the 10th at 6 p.m., we are having the Murder of Miles Randolph, our virtual murder mystery game. That's also free. You can also register at tracymediallc.com /r-events. And lastly, before are you a third party candidate? I have some spaces in October and November open, even though I know the election is the 8th. I still want to talk to third party candidates, talk about how they're going to set themselves up for future runs. So please email me at tracymediallc.com. That I got all of those commercials out of the way. Constance, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much for asking. How are you doing, Miss Tracy?
I'm doing fantastic. And if people hear an echo, just today we're having a little technical difficulties, so we'll just deal with them as they come. But that's a good plug for my Patreon, which you can also find at tracymediallc.com. There's a link right there. So I wanted you to talk about what office you're running from. You already mentioned that you're running for governor of Tennessee. But when I looked at the ballot, I see a lot of competition. That's what I call it. I call it competition. What if I was living in Tennessee? Why would you say vote for you as opposed to everyone else?
Well, thank you so much for that question. I'll begin to first say I'm not here to convince anyone. It is very clear at this point in time that we are needing serious changes in the political climate of our country. Yes, I'm running for the governor's seat, but I'm sure in local policy, state policy, and federal policy across our country, we are seeing the detrimental effects of poor leadership. And so to me, the conversation of convincing is not necessary. If you are someone who is benefiting from the current climate of our politics, then maybe it is a great advantage for you to continue to keep business as usual. Vice versa, if you are someone who is living in the hardships of our current climate of politics, then I'm sure you're looking for a new resource, a new outlet. But here's the kicker. If you're still voting Democrat or Republican, then to me, you're already making a mistake in how you're voting because that's exactly how we got in this political climate in the first place. For the longest, outside party candidates or third party candidates have been shut out from the political engagements and from the political scene across various offices for centuries now in this country. It is intentional that fellow it's been historical. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's been historical that fellow candidates who don't run on the Democrat Republican ticket are hardly ever known or even heard of. So for anyone that's in Tennessee, my thing for you is that I say I'm running because I'm representing a certain demographic, a certain class of people who normally are very hardly ever heard or seen, but are often and frequently patronized and tokenized when it's election season. And that's particularly the poor people. I'm here because in my work as a nonprofit founder of a 501c3 and a 501c4, I've seen firsthand in the trenches of the detrimental impacts of things that are happening when you have things like failure to pass tenant protection laws and rent control laws, when an inflated market that we're currently in that is driving the housing market up around the country, but the state of Tennessee has been hit hard by the inflated housing market, and especially gentrification running rampant to the poor and especially the poor black areas of the state. I am also a person who has seen the homelessness. As you know, Tennessee has made a crime bill against homelessness here. It is a felony in the state of Tennessee to be homeless. And I'm grateful that I was removed from homelessness roughly 3 years ago because 4 years ago I was homeless myself. And I could not imagine being faced with a bill that where I have been already kicked down by society, the world, family, friends, and other close associates to me who I thought would help in my time of need, to now live in a state where that has now been farther criminalized because I don't have the means or access to change my conditions. Instead of helping with that, they are now finding ways to profit off of me by putting me in these jail systems instead, where I get charged with a felony, which obviously farther diminishes my opportunity for public housing because in a lot of states, being a felon makes automatically exclude you from any affordable housing programming or services. And so just seeing that factor. And as I say all the time, if you are a working American, we know livable wages are just not a real thing. You know, people are now talking, just now starting to have a discussion around $15 an hour as a minimum pay rate. But the problem with that is that we are already past that pay rate as far as a livable wage. Today's livable wage is now around $24, $25 an hour. You can get up to about 20, 22. That at least allow you to afford the average cost of rent. Because as we know, most requirements are 2 times or double or 3 times double the amount of rent income in order to afford rental property. And so in order to meet that minimum, you have to pay at least $21, $22 an hour. But if we're talking about livable wages, we're really talking about a $24, $25 an hour rate at this point. And so to me, that's my conversation with people. Like I said before, I'm not trying to convince anyone. I'm speaking to the issues that is impacting most of us. For example, in the state of Tennessee, only 6% of our state makes $200,000 or more a year annually, while 94% of the state is cost financially burdened or in living in a state of financial crisis right now as we speak. And so to me, people that are seeking for someone to vote for, this is why I say you vote for me, because one, I'm fully aware of the issues that are impacting our daily livelihoods. Two, I understand the roles and powers of the governor as far as executive and veto power and how I can really use that to benefit the majority versus continuing to uplift or only serve the interests of the minorities. And then also, three, because if we don't make these changes for new leadership outside of the two political road parties that are exactly the same and only going to carry the agendas the same way with different approach. Like it's like you give me the same scoop of poop, but you delivered it differently. One may deliver it with an air freshener tree on top of it, or the other one may just deliver it with gravy and say that's what it's going to be. But you're still giving me poop at the end of the day. And that's what I'm here for. I'm the pooper scooper. I'm here to get the poop out of everything so we can actually have clean services and clean accessibility. So to me, if you are tired of being served poop, then you should be voting for me because I'm going to bring the changes that is going to remove the poop. Like I said before, call me the pooper scooper because I'm going to get the poop out of here.
Yep. And I think someone just came up with a suggestion. Is it possible when I'm asking questions, you can turn your mic? Damn.
I can cut it off. I can just turn it on.
Yeah, okay, so that's how it works. So if I can, and then I'll turn mine off when you answer, and that should eliminate um, the echo.
Okay.
Okay, good. Wait a minute, you didn't turn it off because I can still hear the echo.
No, it's off. It's
It's
off.
off?
Oh
Okay, so
wait,
that's
no, it's not.
okay. Now we got it. The echo is gone. So, Constance, you just brought up a point. The main reason why I started the Tracy show. The number one main reason I am so tired of hearing that a vote for a third party candidate is a wasted vote. That whole theory has, I don't allow cursing on my own platform and I'm not going to violate my own rule. But it's just a bunch of malarkey. That's the nicest thing um, that I can say. When you speak to voters in Tennessee, assuming that you're canvassing the whole state, I'm just going to go ahead and assume that you're, doing the necessary outreach. What what are especially the people who are so tied into that, well, I got to vote for this person because if I vote for you, it's taking away a vote. How do you address those specific type of voters, or do you even bother to address those type of voters?
Yeah, I guess my thing for these types of voters is that this is showing the examples and signs of the success of the one party, two name system of depreciating the value and the empowerment of the people vote. People have forgotten that at the end of the day, you're deciding the election. So if you choose whatever candidate, whether they're Democrat, Republican, third party, Liberal Party, Green Party, whatever party, but if the people say, I want Michael Jackson to be the president of this country, guess what will happen? He will be the president of this country. Now, true, there is a little bit of limitation to some of that because we do have the electoral college, some other things. I get it. Yeah, for folks that's going to watch and be like, well, that's not true. Okay, I do know that. I know there is a limitation of truth to that. But at the end of the day, the majority rules. That's how our voting process is supposed to work here. And so to me, if you are someone who is like, I want to vote for a different candidate outside the party because it aligns with my beliefs or it aligns with my needs, it aligns with what my circumstance situations are seeking to have as a resource or as a resolution to the situation I'm currently in, then you should be promoting that candidate because in the governor race, I would say at least governor race down, the people are going to decide those races, and so whoever the people choose for those races is who wins those races. But again, I do not, again, as I've already expressed, I don't waste a lot of time trying to convince people because I think it's clear, like I said before, that we are going to have to make some detrimental changes across the board, not just as the candidates, as the voters, just the taxpayers. Everybody's got to kind of wake up and really realize what we're dealing with at this point when we talk about the politics that our country's currently in. And so for me, that would be my argument for, or my conversation with someone who would say, I have to maintain loyalty to this party or that party because you're a wasted vote. And I would have to remind them, I'm only a wasted vote is because the majority of you all who are in these parties vote in exactly this manner are not actually voting for who you believe in should be in office. So therefore, you're actually wasting a vote because you're staying to the comfort of something that you have been programmed to believe that this is the only way politics works. Otherwise, it doesn't work any other way. And so therefore, by you continuing to feed into the programming machine that has taught you this as a voter, you have disempowered your vote. You have eliminated or limited your selection of choice. And more importantly, you're still going to be dissatisfied no matter what the outcome may be. We have to stop the lesser of two evil voting. I think that's what this kind of hits on. We have to stop doing that. Lesser of two evils is still evil. Now, why would I, as a person who's against evil, vote for a candidate over a candidate that's not evil for a candidate that is evil? That to me is the twisted logic that we're dealing with behind that type of questioning. And so that's what I would have to challenge back with is that if you are against voting for evil, then let's vote for the candidate who's not evil versus continue to vote for the lesser of two evils because we're still picking evilness at the end of the day.
Okay, so we have our first question from our audience. And audience, before I read this question, if you have a question that you want me to ask, please put it in the comment section and I will certainly ask Constance. Constance, my question is this. I think I know the answer, but I'm going to let you answer. Are you invited to any of the debates? And if you are, have you participated?
No, currently I've not been invited to any debates. The only thing I've been invited to, other than podcasts like Tracy and Kiko's, I've been on some national airwave links. Today we were shouted out by D.L. Hughley's show when Jasmine gave the brief of candidates in the country and they talked about all the black women candidates. So I was honored to be honorably mentioned today on that show. But I have to be honest, I've gotten more national attention just by running as a black woman in the state of Tennessee for governor than I have actually as a governor candidate for the state of Tennessee. And it is because, again, the two parties have been intentional in shutting out any third party candidates that can possibly challenge their views or even maybe make them step up to the plate on better addressing the issues and the views because they have not been really challenged themselves because they've been allowed to stay in safe boxes, safe places, or inside the parameters of their political parties' views or known viewpoints in the debates that has currently been hosted. And the irony of it all is that the few debates that have been hosted for gubernatorial candidates, they were organized by the previous Republican governor candidate, Randy Boyd. And the only main participants, though, were the Democratic candidates, which was Dr. Martin, J.B. Smiley, and Anita Atwater, were the only ones who actually participated because Bill Lee, I guess he felt like he got it in the bag, so he didn't feel the necessity to even participate in the candidate gubernatorial forum. So to me, Tennessee voters were really robbed of their candidacies because this was an excellent opportunity to bring in the 8 additional independents. Even though we did have a primary coming, but it still would have opened the viewpoints up for voters to see everyone that was running the state. And more importantly, now we are down to the finish line, and it is 10 candidates. And yet, and still, I put more pressure and more blast on the media for this. You know, Tennessee Holler, USA Today, the Tennessean, several of the Memphis big national networks, Nashville's big news networks, Chattanooga Times down in Chattanooga, Knoxville News Sentinel right here in Knoxville, Tennessee, the Johnson City Press. You know, these are some of the big media coverages in our state, and yet they have even not done a due diligence of unbiased media production and interviewing of the candidates. So I will shout out the People Networks. You know, it has definitely been the people-based podcasting that has done the best job, in my opinion, of fully covering all the candidates running for office. As well as the fact the unions. Shout out to the Marshall County Firefighters Union. Firefighters Union organization for inviting the candidates early this summer. That was the only other time I can think of a time where I saw fellow independent candidates, actually saw some of my running mates with me, and saw just several candidates really run the state. I met some senators that were running. I met some Congress folks that were running. I met some some county representatives, some state senate and state House representatives, and all of that at the Marshall County Fire Department Union. And so to me, that was the most unbiased event I can think of that happened in Tennessee. And the irony is that at that event, none of the Democrat candidates attended. And even though Bill Lee directly himself did not attend, even he sent a representative down there to represent on his behalf. But I thought it was shameful that they had a mock straw election. And one of the Democrat candidates won a ticket down there. And I thought, how could you win a ticket and you didn't even show up for the people? But again, this goes back to what I see some of our conversation always been about, is how the two parties are allowed to brainwash and program people into loyalty. Like I said, he didn't show up. He didn't represent anything about the Marshall County people. And yet he won a ballot in Marshall County at a mock election he did not attend. So this, like I said, continues to show the bigger issue of the two-party system itself, that candidates don't even show up to the events and they still win elections in a location. That's shameful to me. And it really does, again, it's not been a true representative as an elected official of the people you claim you want to represent and support.
You're saying I'm like, are we the same person? Because I have like, I know you're in Tennessee and I'm in Indiana, but I'm like, wow, this is just, this is such a widespread virus, because that's what I call it. It's a virus that is infecting our whole system. And candidates like yourself who are out there who are truly advocating for the people can't get out because media has just decided, oh well, and that's it. It's ridiculous. Here comes my next question. And if I asked the two previous candidates this question, I'm going to ask you this question. And we have 5 people watching. Yay! So, and people watch this past the date that it broadcasts, but remember to put your questions into the comment section. My next question comes about, I think I know what made you decide to run. But here's my question: how has the process of gathering volunteers been? What challenges did you face or do you face, and how did you overcome those challenges?
I think to this question, I have a little bit of advantage perspective to it because I am a well-known advocate and activist in my local area, but around my state as well. And one of the things I've learned about volunteers is that they will come and go as they please, but you cannot become dependent upon that because if boots are not on ground, which includes your boots being on ground, then action doesn't happen. And so for me, I focused more on my commitment as a volunteer to my campaign. I focused on more of what I can do as a volunteer towards and for and doing the boot on ground work about this campaign. So for me, I have been able to galvanize volunteers in various states in various counties around the state in my visitation because it was me who came and knocked on those doors firsthand and said, "Hey, I'm Constance Every running for governor of Tennessee, your candidate, and I want to meet and greet with you and talk about your issues." And it is inspiring to see the response of the people from that type of engagement. Many people are very shocked and surprised that a candidate for governor is knocking on their door. And once we have an engagement, because I've been targeting the lower income, impoverished community areas with this conversation, this campaign. And once you have the conversation, one of the things is that a lot of people bank a success of a campaign on money, but I have been banking my success on ability of reaching voters and turning voters that say they're going to vote for me in the election. Like I told everyone, you don't have to give me money. The best thing you can give me is your vote, because that's what's going to give us all the money once I become governor of the state of Tennessee. And so for me, just having that type of messaging towards people, it has made people just on their own volunteer to help. I mean, I've had one lady who's taken my handbills that we've been passing out and like just putting up social media posts all over her platforms and other things. She has a strong following, has about 10,000 or so followers, and so she's like, I can just share this all over the place and it'll help, and it has. I get emails and we get, sure, like you have your platforms, you get your statistics of your traffic coming to and from your platform, and so just seeing those numbers increase. And as well as the fact, the yard signs, that's been a big one because we got QR codes, because QR codes to me is the fastest way to share information. And so we put QR codes on everything we got. And so I found that the yard signs have been very resourceful in helping to galvanize volunteers to assist in the program. And the main thing we're just asking our volunteers for to do is just help spread name recognition. And because the thing is that my platform, I think, is pretty right to the point of what I'm going to do and what I stand for and what I'm serving for. And so for people, I feel like you don't have to really try to explain or iterate a lot of facts to them. I think it's better to say, hey, there's another option, there's another candidate. Our situation, our climate can change if we get behind this candidate that has a platform more serving and more towards us. And then just doing that, just spreading by word of mouth and helping to spread the platform. And of course, as being in this type of role, everyone's not going to be happy. But again, it's about making sure that the majority is happy. I would rather have 94% people living comfortably and 6% people unhappy or are living in some state of dire need that we haven't figured out, or we're just not reaching them well, versus currently we have 6% people living well and 94% people that are in dire need of our state. I would take those statistics any day flipped over the other. And so for me, that's how I feel like I've been able to successfully galvanize volunteers, because I feel like the other key thing is that we as the candidates have to give people something to want to go for. And I just feel like most of our candidates have been watered down, bland, pretty much exactly the same. Only difference is if you're wearing red or blue beside your name as your party representation. But as far as the people goes, it's white, wealthy men that we keep getting. And that's not cutting it, because white wealthy men have no idea about poverty situations. They don't know what it's like to struggle to pay for food and gas and the light bill. And don't forget, you got 3 kids that need shoes the same week. They don't know that kind of struggle because they don't live that kind of struggle. And so again, I find that being a candidate more authentic to what the people are, to what the people needs are, and what people actually look like that are in need of these particular needs, to me, it's just been an advantage in helping to galvanize volunteers. And again, not having to lean on a party recognition platform to get that kind of volunteering. It has been authentically grown from people I've been connecting with who are sick of tired of being devastated and starved because government greed is literally the biggest problem in the room. You can't even blame it on capitalism at this point. It is literally government greed itself that is creating the issues that we are also dealing with when you talk about capitalism and destruction of the workforce backbone of America.
So my next question before I get to, and I know I promise I will get your question, but I have to ask this. So far I've had, you're the third candidate, and the first two have went in on a write-in ballot where they're asking people to write. Have you gathered enough petitions to be on the ballot, or are you going to have to be the write-in candidate?
Oh no, I've been on the ballot since back in February. I am officially a ballot candidate. If you go to Baltopia, I think is who does kind of that work of really keeping up with candidates around the country for various offices. Yeah, I've been an independent candidate on the ballot since March. I announced my run last year in September 2021 that I was going to run. And we went through the process. Of course, we've been going through the process, but it was back in February. We had to have the petition of the ballot completed. Me and my guy rolled a bird back in February, turned my petition, my ballot in. Within a week or so later, I was sent my letter from the state legislator informing me, the state legislative election office, election commission, informing me that I am officially a ballot candidate. So I've been on the ballot for some time. So yes, I am on the actual ballot.
The so the next follow up question, because I've never, you're the first candidate, again you're making history, you're the first candidate to actually be on the ballot. um this would mean, and I'm just assuming this, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, I'm assuming that some people had to go out and gather X amount of signatures. Is that right by a head shake, or am I completely wrong?
Yeah, I'll be honest. Tennessee actually has one of the easiest candidate ballot processes. No matter what office you're running for, the requirement is 25 signatures. And as you know, that is based off of what office you're running for. So if you're a city county candidate, obviously you have to run in your jurisdiction to get those signatures. Same thing for the state and Senate legislator members. Same thing for them. They have to do it in their jurisdiction. With the federal and like governors, like statewide and federal statewide candidates, you can get the signatures from any county as long as they're a resident and registered voter in the state of Tennessee. They can sign off on your petition. Then once that is completed, you turn in the completed ballot to the local election commission. So whatever county that you're registered in as the candidate, you turn it into your local county election commissioner. They will verify those 25 signatures. Once those 25 signatures are verified, it'll go through the state process where they, I guess, process it as a verified ballot. And then, like I said, within a few weeks or so after doing all of that, you'll get your letter from the state, like I said, election commission, let you know if you did or did not clear their petition requirements to be on the ballot. So I admit that it was not a strenuous process. The strenuous process has been combating with the two parties and their ability to control the media and as well as the debate forums for my particular candidacy of office. That's been the bigger battle, is fighting the parties and how they have just been able to really blanket and control the media outlets of this candidacy and run for this particular race of the governor race of Tennessee.
And that's where the similarities end. The state that I live in, Indiana, I believe you have to have 2% of whoever, whatever amount of people voted last time. So this year it's like 45,000. Well, I thought, did she say 25, like two and then a five? Because I thought another number was going to come. Anna, I'm going to get your question. Anna wants to know, how many doors have you personally knocked on? And that's from the time, you could go from the time that you announced until now. And did you have a goal in mind when you started that door knocking?
Yeah, so I have personally door knocked on 35 different county residents up to this point. There's a total of 95 counties in the state of Tennessee. Our goal was definitely we wanted to knock on all 95 county doors. And that is still achievable because we're in the last leg of the race. We started heavily in East Tennessee, which is the area that I'm actually from in the state of Tennessee. Tennessee is broken up to three regions. We are East, we are Middle, and we are West. And so we started heavily in the East Tennessee. Since August, September, we have moved into Middle Tennessee. In October, November, we will be coming in on West Tennessee on the back end of the election. I just now started getting some emails from the Memphis area, to be honest, and I'm looking forward to visiting areas like Jackson, Tennessee, where Lane College, which is a historical HBCU, is located. And definitely looking forward to getting down to Memphis, as many people that do know anything about Tennessee, most people know about Memphis or Nashville, because these are the heavily dense black populated areas, especially Memphis is well known as the black city or the black chocolate city of Tennessee. That is our strategy. And yes, like I said before, we definitely want to knock on not all 95 county doors. This is, I don't know how realistic that is getting now. Like I said, we've completed 35. We got roughly 5 or 6 scheduled next week. I would say altogether, we probably gonna get really close to maybe more around 80 to 85. But hopefully we'll hit those neighboring counties. Like I said, when you hit Memphis and Jackson, you're kind of hitting a lot of the West Tennessee area. But then there's these other places like Tipton County, where Mason City was located. I don't know if you guys heard about that, where the state legislature tried to overtake that. That's the only historically founded black city in the state of Tennessee. And Ford Motor Corporation is wanting to set up a major plant, distribution plant down in Mason City. And the Tennessee state legislature has taken control of the local jurisdiction of those elected officials' government, because they're claiming irresponsibility of the local elected officials, who are all black, that they don't have the ability to handle this type of infrastructure and investment in their city. So this is just examples of how you see the overreaching of our elected officials. So I definitely want to visit those areas like that to let those voters know that with me as your governor, we will definitely have a better one deal with Ford, because I don't feel like Ford has really been fair and just either in to the residents of Mason and Tipton County, but also to the state of Tennessee. You're using our land and our resources, and you're getting extremely cheap, a little bit too cheap for my comfort. And I feel like when companies want to set up shop in Tennessee, they need to pay the Tennessee taxpayers for the land and for the resources that they're going to claim, because that does not come cheap as well for you, nor is it free. These are some of the areas that I'm definitely looking to target in the West Tennessee area, and hopefully by targeting those areas, we will have a strong spread in the West Tennessee area compared to any of the other candidates, because again, I am going to lean on the advantage of being the only black candidate left in the election for governor, and heavily target when I go to the black community areas, letting them know that we can still turn Tennessee's governor seat black if we galvanize as black folks in our state and really vote and push at least 1 million voters into my race. So yes, that's kind of the strategy behind our door knocking and how we've been going about it. We are a self-funded. Again, that's the other thing. We can't compete with the cost. We don't have the ability to compete with the money the parties are pouring in. It's nothing for the Republican candidate or nothing for the Democrat candidate to shoot from East to West Tennessee, because they have the resource and the funding. We are self-funded. I'm a disabled combat veteran. I've been using my veteran pension to help fund a lot of my campaign. We have had a few good supporters send some good donations to help do with like yard signs and some of the fuel costs on some of the road trips that we've had to make around the state. But overall, this is self-funded, and so again, we're as successful as our resources extend and allow us to be. But like I said, we are still shooting for that 95, but being realistic, it looks like we're probably going to visit about 80 or so counties and door knock. There's about roughly 7 million people, so if you take 35 counties already been visited, and you average anywhere from 100 to 1,000 doors been knocked on per county, you can kind of guesstimate kind of some of the spread we've already hit just in the 35 county visitation we made thus far.
Good. So thank you everybody for these questions. You guys are asking some really good questions. Marlon wants to, and that I'm calling him Marlon, but that's his Gmail account name, I guess. If you do, and we're not going to say if, because Constance is winning. Constance is with. There's no doubt about it. She's winning. It's done. It's finished. But if somehow they cheat you out of this one, because that's what they're going to have to do to win, do you plan on running again?
Yes and no. I have a couple of different strategies if things does not work as planned, but I'm like you, Miss Tracy. I'm not calling it until the fat lady sings is called, and until that happens. But like I said before, I've already been doing this work for a long time. I've been, like I said, in the trenches for almost 10 years now with my two nonprofits, 501c3 Sleeves for Needs is a social service organization. 501c4 Black Coffee Justice is just that. It is a civil rights social justice organization. And so with that, One of the things I am planning on doing is creating a lobbyist group, because Tennessee for Everyone is a registered political organization, is actually what it's registered as, that we are running a political candidate through. And one of my plans is taking T in for everyone. We have to change the T, and obviously make it something more universal and national, internationally welcoming. But we're going to change this to something else and create a lobbyist department or lobbying organization out of this, where we will maintain our presence on the state and the federal government presence, and start to get in these politician ears. A lot of people don't talk about who is actually influencing our elected officials. And yes, it is the people. It is the people. I'm not going to say that the people showing up on the front doorsteps don't have an impact. It definitely does. But it's really those lobbyists that are in those politician ears 24/7, making those night calls, seeing them first thing in the morning with their coffee cups and everything else, that are really pushing the initiatives of the country. And again, it's shameful that corporate America has been successful at buying their lobbyists that go in and buy the politicians for them at this point. And so I think it's time to get more people-based lobbyists in the room with these fellow lobbyists to shut it down and remind the elected officials, you're not loyal to big pharmaceutical cash. You're loyal to the patients that are being treated by big pharmaceuticals medication that you've been paid in cash to perform for. And so we need to get the people back in those rooms, and that's one of the things I'm going to do, is I'm going to start up a lobbyist organization. I said that, yes, I think that I may run one more time for the governor's seat. If it does not work out, I think this year has been good for name recognition. We're going to keep our presence, like I said, with the lobbying work, so that'll continue to have people tracking on how we have continued to push and move in political environment and spaces. And then after the next 4 years of whoever comes through, if I don't make it, we will run again as an independent candidate again for the governor of Tennessee, and continue again to try to make history. If for somehow one of the five of us does not make it in America this time around, that hopefully the next 4 years around, we will finally have history made in one of these states, and finally make American history by having a black woman become governor of a state in the United States of America. So that's kind of my long-term strategy at this time. If things does not work out, what does the saying goes? Delayed, not denied. And so that's how I look at this race. This is delayed in any form and fashion, but it will not be denying the liberation and changes that is the long-term goal of me running for office in the first place.
Okay, that was a great answer, but I'm like, no, she's not losing. She's got it. It's hers. Oh, she's got. Run your race, because I think that's a big thing. I get third party candidates. This is another reason I started the show. I'm so tired of you all saying this one. Well, if I could stop, drop the word if. Stop, just stop it. Don't do that anymore. From this moment on, you have to talk about when you are going to get that victory. And victory means that you have more votes on election day than the other people. Not these, oh, if I could just get the issue out. The issues are important. They're going to be there after election night. Trust me. But just stop. And we'll be talking about that on forum on September the 24th. However, I've asked my other two candidates this question, and I have to ask you this question. What type of toll has running for office taken upon you, your family, your friends, your colleagues? I'm assuming you work, so your coworkers. Talk about what it actually means to run for office and what toll it can take.
Uh, I guess the toll of running for office is dealing with the multiple mindsets, especially the program mindsets. I think that's where I get the most burnt out, because people's logic is so twisted now. It's extremely twisted. For example, when I first was going public about the livable wage rate, I won't forget this one woman particularly, because she just thought it was flabbergasting to her that a high schooler and a college student could be making equivalency pay rate that I guess as a 45, 50-year-old woman you didn't see until you got into that age group. But I let her state her piece about the matter, and then I just approached her position with logic. I told her, I said, basically, what you're saying is that because people are 18 years or younger or 25 and under, that they don't deserve a livable wage. I said, because basically based off of your philosophy, because she talked about her son being a college student and how she didn't think it was right that he would be making $25 an hour just as a college student, whatever job he may or may not have. And I told her, I said, well, I said, by based off of your logic, I was like, you're basically saying that because your son is 18 years old, he does not deserve a livable wage. I was like, because again, we have this word called inflation, and like what inflation does is create or diminish, actually it doesn't create, it diminishes the value of the American dollar as its credit side, its debit credits rises or lowers based off of what side it's on. And I said, so you're basically saying that because a college kid is 18 years old, they do not deserve the ability to be able to eat, do not deserve the ability to be able to afford rent so they can stay someplace while they're studying. I was like, keep in mind, college tuition is probably the only thing to actually stay in some form of an affordable space per se, because there has not been any major increases in tuition costs over the last 4 to 6 years. But the reality is that it's still expensive. Everybody don't have $40,000 in the bank to kick out. I said, so basically you're also telling college kids that do want to go to college that they don't deserve a livable wage rate, because to pay just for their tuition bill that comes every semester or so many months throughout the semester, those who are paying out of pocket for their advancement and higher advancement education. And so I told her that. I said, this is the archaic model that got us trapped in $7.50 as a federal minimum wage rate in the first place. I said, because some of you all think for some reason that saying let's pay $23 an hour is going to bankrupt you personally somehow, when in reality, having a minimum wage rate actually gives everybody more money. Because I do agree that, yes, someone who is a doctor, you should have been making $23 an hour or better. So here's the kicker, doctor. Instead of getting mad at the guy at Burger King who flips the burgers who's making $21 an hour, maybe you should go talk to your medical board group and let them know, I am a certified doctor with a college degree that had to go to secondary school of med school to even get the additional degree for the required field, career field I'm working in. So I find it to be an insult that with my educational background requirements and the completion of those requirements, that I am now making the same amount of cash as someone at Burger King. You need to pay me more money for my credentials, because if Burger King's making 25, that means I make 35 at this point going forward. That's how we should be having those conversations. It should not be what, again, America's really good at. America is great at taking any nitpicky thing that will divide the poor and the rich, the black and the white, the kid and the adult. Any way they can create a division, they're great at it. And I think it's shameful that the workforce of America are fighting with each other about who's making what, instead of getting mad at the corporations and, again, our government for allowing corporations to be able to cap and create competition in the nature that they are of our workforce employees, to pit them against each other. That you get mad at a single mom for being able to afford her rent and her children's needs, foods, lights, her car insurance, her car notes, so she can travel back and forth and get her children where she need to go. That you're more mad as a lawyer that she's making that equivalent pay, instead of as a lawyer saying, I'm glad she's getting that money, but now you have to pay me too, because I had to do a little extra to get this pay that comes with my career field. And so instead of pitting me against the single mom, no, I'm pitted against you, Ford, Nike, and whoever else doesn't want to pay a livable wage at this point. It's time for workers to put the blame where it belongs, which is to our corporations, and stop putting it on each other. So to me, that's been some of the greatest frustrations and toe burning of this candidacy, has been trying to change the mindsets and the perspectives that has been programmed into us. We've been programmed to hate. We've not been programmed to see love. We've been programmed to see hate before we see love ever in the picture. And it's shameful because, again, this is a distraction. This is a way that, again, our government and big business have been able to work together. And more importantly, at the end of the day, the biggest loser is us, not them, it's us. And so we need to all wake up and realize that we are all playing our own part in this ecosystem of distrust that has been created amongst us, but it's not by our choice, it's by the programming, especially this media and this very thing that we're talking on, these platforms, these cell phones, these computers. This is how we got here. And so that's, to me, the greatest toll. Just really been battling the multiple mindsets and just how arrogant the mindsets really are, because the programming is arrogant in the way that it's been produced to the public and the masses.
I did not expect you to go there. I thought you were going to talk about I had to find somebody to walk my dog. I had to. I mean, and your answer was great, but I'm like, boy, she really didn't go the way I thought. But thank you for that answer. That's so great. There is another question, and this is almost my last question. Well, no, it's my fourth to last question. But you talked about black Tennesseans. And in the black community, there is one group of people that have great influence on how elections can go. And they're my most favorite people, but sometimes they're my least favorite people. And that's church members. Um, Talk about how you specifically reach. And I'm not. You didn't say like you were with the Green Party, so I'm assuming you're running with no party. Like you're not running with the Libertarians, the Greens, the anybody party. You're just independent. Talk about reaching that specific church community, because if the churches in Tennessee work like they work in Indianapolis, those people have, the people who I know have a specific mindset. They're not going to vote independent. You could pay them $25. You could select them money under the table. You can make every legitimate case, and they'll still, because they're going to vote. They will absolutely positively vote. But how do you get those people, or what do you say to that specific group to say, hey, why don't you go for this third option? And you may have spoken to that before, but I want you to specifically talk about that group of people.
Yeah, I call it more than just the church folks. I call it the elder guard, the black elder guard. I mean, they're commonly found in the churches, of course, but we all know about the black elder guard. These are the folks who refuse to relinquish the torch because tokenism is a real thing. And so to me, that is the greatest battle with the elder guard is the tokenism because um, again, this goes back to what I said earlier about black people need to get really behind black candidates, regardless if they're running a party ticket or not, because this is history always been made for us because we don't hold these offices or these positions or even hardly ever run for these positions. And so therefore, we as black people, in my opinion, should always galvanize around our candidate, no matter what party or non-party they're with. It is a black candidate and we are black people and we need to be supporting that because that is a guaranteed change for our people in our situations. We are one of the most devastated, oppressed, suppressed, and depressed demographics in America. So we should always galvanize around that. But the problem is the tokenism. As we know, the Democrat and Republican Party have both done it. Herschel Walker is one that comes to mind when I think about the Republican Party. And the Democratic Party has had numerous. I mean, Kamala Harris, Obama. I mean, the list is long on the tokenism that we've seen them been able to display. And that's the issue. The issue of getting these type of demographics like the black church and the elder guards, some of these loyalties to the Democratic Party, particularly, is who they've been shown the most loyalty to, has been the issue of the tokenism. I mean, like I said before, when you have a group of people so depleted and devastated, it's like having a million birds in one cage, right? And you only feed these birds once a week, so everybody's really hungry. But here's the kicker: when it's time to feed the birds, you only throw one Ritz cracker into the cage. What do you think is about to happen to that cracker? It's demolished. If it is a crumb left, boy, it's literally just that, the bare minimum of a crumb left. And that's what the Democratic Party has done well with their tokenism of our black community. So that when another candidate that's like me, for example, coming through the doors, that's serious about our needs, serious about independency, serious about uplifting the poor people particularly, and what that looks like going forward when we have the accessibility and resources that we've never had before because someone's in office that actually represents and is for us now for a change. They can't see that because they are so blinded by the titles and the small crumb dollars that they're throwing their way to their churches and to their nonprofit organizations or to their annual gala in the garden event. You know what I'm saying? That's what we get so lost and distracted by. And so they can't understand or even want to understand or even see that because they're so more worried about what they have to give up versus what they can gain if they give it up. And again, that is America's problem. One of the reasons why we've so combated to change in this country is because people spend more time worried about what they will give up or lose more likely versus than what they will gain. And I'll give you another shining example. One of the things I talk about with the Green Energy Initiative is the job cost that's going to come with it. If we go green energy right now in the state of Tennessee, we will lose 27 million jobs in the state of Tennessee. Now, here's the kicker. By also going green, we will give up those 27 million jobs for 50 million jobs in return. Did you hear what I just said? We will lose 27 million jobs going green tomorrow, Tennessee. But by losing 27 million, we will gain 50 million jobs in return. Now, here's the problem with what I just said, Tracy. A lot of people heard it, and a lot of people did not hear that. A lot of people just heard 27 million jobs are going to be gone. But they didn't hear what I just said. We will gain 50 million at the exact same time. Well, this is what we're talking about with the elder guard in the church. I am telling them directly, we will get 27, I will lose the 27 million, but we can get back 50 million, which is double what we just lost. And the sad part is, Tracy, they only heard the 27 million, and that's where they got lost. And that's what we're dealing with when you talk about the black community, the black church, and the black elder guard, particularly. The tokenism got them brainwashed, and they can't see nothing else past that at this point. So again, I don't waste my energies there. I still think there are more poor people that won't change versus than any poor loyal Trump Republican, and vice versa, any more loyal than a poor black Democrat token as well. I think there are just more people that are in between those two that are sick of these things that are happening and won't change versus those extremists on either end, on the right or the left.
I really appreciate you coming on here. It's like, I keep asking, are we the same person? Are we literally the same person? Because everything I'm thinking you're saying. Like I heard you say the 27 million, but then I heard you say 50 million. I'm like, okay, that's 32 million. So that's the oh, you were so right. So I have two last things, maybe three. Um, Definitely give us information. You can email it to me about the nonprofit lobbying group because that's that's something that I think that we as a country need. And I don't have much, but whatever that $5 or $10 a month I can support, I will be glad to do it. And then encourage my followers to do it. And that brings up my next question. I know you said that your campaign is self-funded, but I'm just looking at your website. You take donations. You give the levels, and you said the vote is more important than the donations, and I understand that. But what I here's how I'll frame this question. Talk about if I'll give you this scenario. If you had $25,000 on hand to spend, what would you do with it?
If I had $25,000 on hand right now, we would we got 200 yard signs in stock, which I am taking with me on the road because there are several requests for it. But we probably order a few more yard signs. I'll probably get some big boy yard signs. And then I would go on the road for the rest of the election cycle. I would literally be gone from now until November the 8th when I would return back to Knoxville for our election party night to see what has happened as far as us crossing the threshold to the victory line. But I would literally be from here on out visiting the remaining counties, 35 minus 95. So I would be visiting the remaining 60 counties at this point going forward. Being at every single event, being just in the neighborhoods, door knocking, being wherever we got to go, any union meeting, any interview, anything under the sun, we would go full scale across the rest of the state from here on out with that 25,000. I would put it directly onto the road trail campaign funding needs. That's exactly where we go. We will hit the road immediately.
Okay, this is the second to last question because I said I'm gonna try to keep this 45 minutes, and I'm looking at how long I went. I'm like, dang, I done told this lady a lot. I did, but it's like you're answering these questions. I'm like, oh, let me ask this. Okay, so of course we have, even though you live in a different state than I do, we have issues that affect all Americans, and I'm gonna name one of them and talk about the day after you win the governor's race. How would you address the issue of people that literally are one paycheck away from homelessness?
You know, so Tennessee has a fund called the TNF Fund. It's TNAF. I can't remember what it stands for, but it's also been nicknamed the Poor People Fund. Currently, the governor Republican incumbent candidate has been stalking money in the TNF fund, up to the number of about $5.6 billion the last time on my campaign to check it. I do know there's been some budget adjustments recently made to the state budget, so it could be more on the up end of $6 billion. To me, the first day I would be doing in office is releasing those funds immediately to those families that are one paycheck away from losing anything. Again, this is taxpayers' money. I cannot emphasize this enough. One of the key commitments of my campaign is restoring the taxpayers' money back to the taxpayer. Too often we give the money to the state legislator. The state legislator then assimilates the funds down to the various county municipalities and government bodies. And then from there, based off if you have a county with a city space, then at some point, some of those funds that are sent to the county are shared with the city governments as well. And far too often, we see poor spending, poor allotment of the taxpayers' money. There are several examples. We are spending $500 million on the NFL stadium of the Tennessee Titans in the state of Tennessee. That's a bad contract to me because, for me, as I've already stated before, corporations will now be responsible for the expenses and costs of their infrastructures and facilities in our state because you chose to shut up shop here in our state. What you're going to pay our state for, though, as I said before, is the land and resources that your company will be using as your accessibility to our state. So that's one example. Another example of poor spending I think about is how we have another one that we're doing. We're wasting money on a baseball stadium. As we know, baseball is one of the dying sports, unfortunately, of the American pastime. It cannot keep up with the entertainment aspirations, levels, and requirements that the NFL, the NBA, even with soccer, even is starting to grow in popularity in its fan base here on the American side. And so to see a $14 million investment from the state budget towards a baseball stadium for a wealthy multi-millionaire who can afford his own stadium, but he wants to use public dollars for his private interests. Again, poor allotment and poor spending. And when I see things like greenway spaces being put over priority of homeless housing, that is a concern to me. When I see no kind of environmental policy that's capsizing down on zero net waste of these chemical corporations and plants, but then we are at the same time not able to provide clean drinking water to our residents and its members, that to me is again poor allotment and poor spending practice. And so once again, that is my message for anyone that's watching this, is that the next day after I win the state of governor of Tennessee, the whole state will literally change in a 24-hour period. You will notice the difference with me being in office versus any other candidate has ever held the seat before me, because like I said before, I would immediately distribute those funds of the TNF fund to our poorest counties and demographics and city locations in our state. We know that because we are always keeping up with our economical census. I don't have to guess or dig it out of my tail somewhere to find it. It is already on file, and there are people assigned on state government offices who know this information. So we immediately disperse funding to those folks. As well as the fact accessible health care immediately overnight. Tennessee closed 30 hospitals during the pandemic COVID crisis of this country. So we knew how much they cared about people getting sick. They didn't. These facilities would be immediately reopened. My commitment has been no medical deserts anywhere in our state. I've talked to too many elderly members in the ages of 65 and up who one of their greatest fears is that they no longer have a medical emergency facility or a 24-hour clinic or anything of that accessibility to their neighborhood. And they're worried about dying in the process of riding the ambulance to get the care they need. And so to me, that's a problem. I'm committed to no food deserts as well. It's shameful that a lot of locations, unless you're living in a wealthy or recently gentrified neighborhood or community, do not have access to grocery stores. Most grocery stores are 20, 30 minutes away from most residential areas. Here's the problem with that: transportation. And public transportation is not great in the state of Tennessee at all. So you're actually literally putting people in a state of starvation because they are not accessible to food. That's just the reality. And so these are some of the very things for the people that are in some of the most economically cost crisis situations that Constance ever becoming your governor, 24-hour period, you would know the difference, because immediately overnight you would have set up shop less than a block or two from your home, healthcare, food, quality education. Again, like I said, our own distribution of stimulus checks in the state of Tennessee with the money we've already stockpiled to the side. Thank you, Republican Party, for doing that, because I know exactly what to do with that money. And we even have the money now to help those very people financially, not just with our resources and assistance, but actual dollars, cash money in their hand. So yes, those are the things I would do immediately overnight in the first 24-hour period as the governor of Tennessee, as well as legalize cannabis. Cannabis will also be one of my first immediate actions to affect. Recreational or medicinal use cannabis will now be fully legal in the state of Tennessee.
Okay, so I don't see any questions from the audience. So I promise this will be the absolute last question. Tell everyone, and I have an announcement at the end, so don't go anywhere, everybody. I got one announcement at the end. Tell us where we can find you and how we can support you.
All right, yes. First off, thank you so much, Miss Tracy Carson, for having me on the Tracy Carson Show. This was quite the pleasure and honor. I am greatly, much gratitude and very dearly appreciative of such opportunity. How can you find me? Yes, America. My name is Constance, and I am running for governor of Tennessee 2022 election cycle. We are running on the platform of Tennessee for Everyone. That's how you find us. Punch it into your phone with Google. You can Google Constance Every Governor of Tennessee, or you can type in TN, the number 4, every number 1, as you see right here underneath my name, Constance/TN for Everyone. Just drop that into the Google search bar and it'll pop right up. Click the link that'll take you directly to our website. At the website, you can find all our social media outlets. We are on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, I believe is the other one that we are on. You can follow those different links and sign on to follow us and keep up with our campaign as we complete the trail to the finish line strong. As well as the fact, how can you support, help us? Of course, you can definitely donate, but definitely, if you have any family or friends in the state of Tennessee, no matter where you at in America, you can tell them to vote for me. If you are in the state of Tennessee, please send us an email to tennesseeforeveryone@gmail.com, or again, follow the link on the website where we have a link open for how can I get involved, support, volunteer, take action. It will directly lead you to how you can support the campaign in various and numerous ways right now as we speak. It'll come directly to our email, and we'll get in contact with you to let you know how you can support going forward. And then, of course, lastly, again, this is historical opportunity. So any media coverage outlets, etc. Like I said, shout out to Blackbity, shout out to Tracy Carson, shout out to Kiko, shout out to Alabama Free Times, and several others. John Williams show. There's so many John Williams Shepherd show. I apologize. Out of Texas, so many national outlets. Like I said, I cannot give enough appreciation to the national media and you guys for really picking up this independent candidacy campaign. And like I said before, the historical campaign, this is history in the making. 5 women are running for governor of various states. I know Tennessee, Georgia, Texas, Oklahoma, and there's one more I can't think of right off the top of my head. I want to say Iowa for some reason, but I could be wrong. But I do know there are 5 black women who have completely successfully made it to the ballot for November that are running for office. And so, as I said earlier, as we've already talked about numerous times throughout the show, this is history in the making. America has never had a black woman be governor of a single state in its entire 249 years of existence. So help us all make history, whether again it's in Tennessee or any of those states. Please, black people, galvanize around these black women, support them, help them, uplift them, push them, and embrace them. But please do not depress them or doubt them with the what if conversations. Trust me, they are getting plenty of the what ifs, and they were getting what ifs from the day they said they were going to run. So at this point, let's uplift our black women and our queens and support them through their elections. And definitely in the state of Tennessee, I need all y'all support and all y'all help, because I definitely want to be the governor of Tennessee, because I know the one thing I am absolutely committed to, as I told you before, I am not a leader of people pleasing. I am a leader of morality. Right is right and wrong is wrong. And I am here to steer the ship of Tennessee in the right direction. Enough of the wrong things for the state of Tennessee. Thank you so much. Constance Every, Tennessee for Everyone. I appreciate you, Tracy.
And you just got yourself a $25 donation. So thank you, Anna, for doing that. Anna's a really strong supporter of independent candidates. So I'm sure that Constance is very grateful for that. I want to make 2 announcements. One, I'm still looking for third-party candidates. If you're out there, we don't have to agree on everything. You just have to be an independent. Don't bring yourself on emailing me talking about I'm a Democrat, but no. You have to be an independent. I'm still looking for someone to fill 1 slot in October and some in November. I'm going to continue this show even after the election, because then I want to start talking to candidates about how to prepare for the next election cycle. I have one major announcement. We will not have a show. There will not be a guest November the 8th. That is election day. I'm not going to ask a candidate to come on here. I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to talk about the summary of the forum that we had on the 24th, which is coming this Saturday, 9 a.m. It's a Saturday. I know it's early, but we're going to have a great discussion. I'm really hoping that Constance doesn't forget to email me that information about the Black Coffee Group. Yep, okay, the Black Coffee Group. She's shaking her head, yes. And I'm putting her on silence because we're getting some feedback if we're both on, so we're trying to avoid that. So I want to thank everybody. First of all, I want to thank Constance. She was the trailblazer, my first female, my first black person, just trailblazing. She's the next governor of the state of Tennessee. Support her. Remember to like this video, share this video, subscribe to my channel. I've had a total of 151 views with only 82 subscribers. I can do better. My goal is 150. Get me to 150 and you'll get to see me sing. And y'all don't want to miss it because it's terrible. I'm telling you, you're going to get a laugh out of it. Once I reach that 150, I'm just going to do it. But I want to thank everybody. Thank the people who asked questions. Thanks, Marla. Thanks, Anna. Thanks, Kiko. You all are fabulous. I will see you all next week, the 27th. And we'll announce our guest because we're still working out some things with his campaign. We'll talk to you later. Have a great evening.